Being the first is only the beginning. What you do after that, how you lead, how you lift up others, that's what creates lasting impact.
It's very important to help others who are coming up through in the legal profession.
The more we learn about you and your story, I'm like, this is somebody who, like, when she puts her mind to something, you are going to do what you set your mind to, regardless of what happens around you.
If I feel strongly about
Yeah.
something and passionate about something, then yes, I'm
Yeah.
going to pursue it. I went over one day to play with my best friend. The daughter from across the street was there. She ended up suggesting that we go across the street to her house. She goes in first. My friend follows, and then I start to go in, and she shuts the gate in my face. She, after a while, opened it up, and she said, "You're not welcome here. You're not allowed to be here because you're not the same skin color that we are." I was mad, and I said, "Well, I'll show her." All I remember is going back home to my parents, going into their bathroom. I started putting Johnson's baby powder on my arms, covered my legs, the top of my feet, and then my mom walked in and saw me and just lost it. That lesson taught me to be proud of who I am, the color of my skin. It really made me realize how proud I am and was growing up of my Mexican American culture. I learned to have a voice and to speak up.
Being the first gave her a platform. Leadership turned it into a legacy. Because being the first is only the beginning. What you do after that, how you lead, how you lift up others, that's what creates lasting impact. Today's guest, Elizabeth Hernandez, grew up right here in Southern California, in Huntington Beach, Orange County, in a time when being the first wasn't about recognition, it was about resilience. In fact, she was one of the first Mexican Americans to attend her elementary school. From those early experiences, she developed a deep understanding of what it means to break barriers and to build bridges for those coming after you. From UCLA to her first internship at MALDEF to some of the most respected plaintiff firms in California, Green Brolet, Michaels and Liu, Dordick Law, and now BD&J, she's built a career defined by excellence and purpose. But what stands out most isn't just her success in the courtroom. It's her leadership. She served as president of the Mexican American Bar Association, MABA, and she's set to lead the Consumer Attorneys Association of Los Angeles, CALA, in 2026. That's one of the largest and most influential trial lawyer associations in the country. Through it all, Elizabeth has remained grounded, mentoring others, creating opportunities, and reminding everyone watching that representation isn't the finish line, it's the foundation. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to Art of Purpose.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you for making that long trek out here.
Not a problem. Happy to do it.
And, as we get started, just want to thank all of our listeners, all of our viewers, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're up on YouTube. We're really excited every single episode to bring an inspirational conversation and stories. And if this is something that, and I know it's going to be a value add to your life, I just want to ask for you to share it with somebody that you know, family members, with friends, and let's get Elizabeth's story out there. Thank you so much. All right, so Elizabeth, let's start.
Sure.
And really what I want to do is if you could just kind of paint a picture for us. What was life like growing up in Huntington Beach when you were a kid?
Well, I was very young, so my parents moved around from Wilmington, which is by San Pedro, and Long Beach. And then when I was about 2, they took a chance, followed one of my dad's sisters. My dad's one of 12. Mm-hmm. And one of his older sisters is like a second mother to him and very, very close. So when my aunt and uncle were taking a risk and moving to Huntington Beach, which back then was a small city,
yeah,
they convinced my parents to take a risk. And it was a big risk for them financially, too, because my parents didn't have a lot of money. It's not as though we grew up wealthy at all. No, we didn't. They struggled financially. But they also wanted to make sure that they were going to create an environment where their 4 kids could thrive. Yeah. So they thought it would be best to move to Orange County and take that chance. So growing up there, it was interesting. It's very different. Let me just make it very clear. It was very different back when I grew up there.
Yeah. How was it different?
Well, now I know how it's portrayed on the news. Now I see a lot what's going on there. I don't agree politically with a lot that's happening, but it wasn't like that growing up there. Did I encounter some issues? I absolutely did that were difficult, but it's just something that builds character, and you learn from it and you grow from it. So, but overall, growing up there back then, it worked out for my brothers and for me as well, because we developed friendships. We learned a lot. We appreciated our culture a lot more, because some of our friends didn't know anything about the Mexican American culture. Christmas, we to this day, every year we all get together on December 23rd and we make homemade tamales. And we have them for Christmas Eve. We have them for Christmas morning. We sometimes would have them for New Year's Day. My parents would usually have family over to watch the Rose Bowl and some football games, because in my family we're very sports oriented. Even my mom, who to this day loves going to UCLA football games with me.
Love it, love it, love it.
Yes.
Go Bruins.
And she's yelling from the stands, trying to tell the coaches what to do. And I said, Mom, go ahead and go down to the coach.
Just need to hire her at this point.
Very passionate about that. But no, we just built a community. And like I said, it wasn't always easy, but for the most part, it just made us really appreciate, where we come from, where our families come from, and our culture, and then introducing a lot of our culture to many who weren't familiar at the time with our culture.
Okay, you mentioned two things here. You mentioned brothers. How many brothers did you have?
I have 3 brothers. I have 1 older and 2 younger. The younger ones are 11 months apart.
Oh, wow.
So I talked about this recently, where I was saying that you've heard the phrase Irish twins. Well, my younger brothers we call them Mexican twins. So from the time they were toddlers, they were inseparable up until recently. And then we had a family tragedy. So that's been another thing that, we've been dealing with the past couple of years, but very, very close. From when they were very little, even my mom would dress them alike, so people thought they were twins, even though they really don't look alike. But they had that bond from the get-go.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And so you were the only girl in the family, all right?
Only girl in the family. And again, our family was all about sports. So, and then my mom was a big believer that we wouldn't be sleeping in. If it was sunny outside, she would walk into our rooms, even if we thought it was early and it wasn't a school day on a weekend. She would open up the shades and the blinds, open up the windows to get fresh air. And she's like, okay, get up, get out. It's a beautiful day. I don't want you inside. So we would have breakfast as kids. We'd be able to watch cartoons. And then after that, we needed to move on and we'd be outside. And it was always about playing sports. With my brothers, we'd play baseball pretty much every day in the summer. We would play games with some of the neighbors, hide and seek, those types of things. We'd have to be in when the street lights were on. Parents would watch out for each other. So we had a very protected community for the most part as kids.
That's beautiful. I always hate to be like back in my day, right? But honestly, I love that part about growing up is that we were always outside and playing, and you couldn't wait to go outside because that's where all the fun was. We're gonna go play with our friends, our neighbors, and everybody, and that's sort of what life was really.
Yeah, we were always outside. Plus, we didn't have the option. Again, our mom was a big believer that no, you get up and go outside. You're not gonna stay inside and watch TV all day.
And did you play sports growing up, on organized leagues or teams, or was it mostly outside?
I did. So, yes, at school I would always be playing sports, but then I joined outside of school. I joined a league. My brothers were big in baseball, and they were exceptional baseball players. Wow. Girls back then weren't playing baseball. So I decided I wanted to be like my brothers, but I played softball. So I did join an outside softball league, and that was a lot of fun. How my mom did it especially, because she was taking us around to different games, to our practices. My dad would help out when he could, but he was working a lot and wasn't able to be at home a lot when we were growing up. So I don't know how she took us to our practices and then the games, but every weekend We were at games, whether it was my game, my three brothers, my dad was even in a league too.
Wow.
So we were constantly.
Huge Forge fans.
And then when we weren't at games, if we were at home, we'd be watching football
Sure.
or the Lakers
Yeah.
or the Dodgers. And one of my brothers is an Angel fan, Steven, but it was always about sports.
That's so cool. I feel like I see so much of my family story in yours because, like, family is the same thing. They were in LA. They moved to Fontana for same reasons as you were saying. Your parents moved you to Huntington Beach, and mom was taking us everywhere, all the games. You know, dad was working, and you try to make the games, and all that as well. But like, mom was. We would joke that she was like our taxi, our chauffeur. That was like her job, like, because everybody did something different, and she was taking everybody else everywhere.
She would call it Mom's Taxi.
There you go. Yeah, the invoices are still coming, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So growing up in Huntington, I know it was a little bit of a different place there. You said that I guess a lot of people didn't know or hadn't met many Mexican Americans then, right?
Yes, so that's true. We did live, and my parents live in the same home that once they moved there, it's the same house.
You've been there.
They've
beautiful.
never moved. And what my dad says, because I know Huntington Beach has changed, and sometimes people think, oh, these big houses by the beach. No. That's not our house. My dad says we're in the poor side of Huntington Beach. We're not in the wealthy side of Huntington Beach. But no, the street that we grew up on, everybody knew each other. So, but but in the neighborhood or at school, not everyone looked like us.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't so much an issue early on. It really, my first experience with some ugliness was when I was about 8 years old. And then when it happened, I didn't even understand what was going on. And then my parents had to explain it to me.
Yeah.
But it still is with me to this day because that's how impactful it was. And I didn't want to encounter something like that again. But unfortunately, it happens at times.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, what did that period teach you about identity and resilience? I don't know if that's the story that you could share with us.
Sure. So in the neighborhood, 2 houses down was a family, a lovely family. And the daughter was one of my best friends. She's a year older. And her older brother, was best friends with my older brother. The family was from Tennessee, just absolutely lovely and the nicest people. So we would be at their house all the time. They would be at our house. So there was a new family that had moved in across the street from my best friend's house, her family's house. They were from the South, and I believe it was, if I remember correctly, maybe I won't say the state, but they were in the South. And so this family moved in, and they instantly bonded with my friend. They had a daughter who was also a year older than me, and she immediately bonded with my best friend just because they were from the South of the United States. So I went over one day to play with my best friend, as you normally do. It was a hot, sunny day, and I was wearing shorts, open-toe sandals, and a little tank top, and that comes into play later. So I went over to my best friend's house. They welcomed me with open arms like they always did, and the person, the daughter from across the street, was there. And you kind of get a feel for people. You can feel if people are being warm or welcoming or if it's just kind of icy. So instantly it was icy, but I didn't understand. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think it had anything to do with me. I just thought maybe she needs time to warm up. So it just seemed clear she didn't like the fact that I was there. She didn't like the fact that I was best friends with, this person. So what happened is she ended up suggesting that we go, and it wasn't really me, it was her and my friend, go across the street to her house. So my friend invited me, so I went along. So we get over to their house across the street, and there's a gate. So she goes in first, my friend follows, and then I start to go in, and she shuts the gate in my face. And again, I'm not understanding what's happening. So I'm knocking on the gate. I'm like, hey guys. And she, after a while, opened it up, and just so her face poked through. And she said, "You're not welcome here. You're not allowed to be here because you're not the same skin color that we are." So I just kind of stood there and I was thinking, well, what's my best friend doing? And then I thought, what does she mean? I'm not, I mean, I'm like, we're girls, we're the same type of thing. But then she slammed the gate in my face. And then I thought, okay, this is a weird joke.
Yeah.
But she didn't open the gate again. And so then instead of running home and crying, I was mad. And I said, well, I'll show her that I also should be able to go inside. And again, I'm young, so I haven't encountered this really, and I didn't know what to do. But all I remember is going back home to my parents, going into their bathroom. And I knew from growing up as a kid taking baths that my brothers and I, we had a habit of, we loved the Johnson's baby powder and how it felt so smooth. Yeah. So what I thought, what does she mean I'm not the same skin color? And mind you, I'm brown, and in the summertime, I get a lot darker. Yeah. So I thought in my mind, I'm going to show her that I'm going to be able to play with my best friend and her. So for some reason, I had in my mind, not understanding this, that I started putting Johnson's baby powder on my arms, covered my arms, I covered my legs, the top of my feet, and I was just about to put it all over my face. And literally, my plan, not thinking clearly, was I was going to walk across the street and say, look, you let me in here. And then my mom walked in and saw me and just lost it. And then I didn't understand why my mom's so upset. Right. And then she had to sit me down and then tell me about what was really happening. And then I wasn't allowed to go over there anymore and play with them, or at least with that one particular girl. And then, so that was an experience that I just didn't it didn't register to me. And that was very disturbing for my parents because, they don't want their child to have to go through that. And then once I started to understand it, then I was very hurt. Like, why didn't my friend stick up for me? Why did this person treat me that way? And then it made me think about other times when my friend wasn't available to play or she wasn't home and I wanted to go out and play, and we were brought up to be very neighborly. So I decided, without my best friend, before this even happened, to walk over to this girl's house. And thinking back on it after that ugly incident happened, I remember knocking on the door, asking it. Her mother answered the door. Her mother gave me this look, very icy, like, why am I there? It wasn't welcoming, but I, again, clueless, didn't think anything of it. And then when she brought her daughter to the door, she was also equally not very friendly. I asked if she wanted to play, and she said no, and that was pretty much it. So it was an issue, obviously, that this family had, and what's sad is that, she was young too, so I was 8, she was 9, but she already had that mentality. Hopefully she doesn't still have that, but she did, and ultimately the family did move away. They weren't there for that long, and they moved away, so we didn't have to deal with that situation again.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I know
it's not
it's like a memory that sometimes, and you sort of, the way that as I hear that story and the context, let's say as an individual, I know you as being this absolutely lovely person and an individual, like you said, very neighborly in so many respects as well, right? It's like you're very welcoming for everybody and you make space for everybody. And I think, sometimes these experiences in our past can actually change us and hurt us in ways that we stop being that, right? And I guess part of what maybe the next question for me here is, how did your parents even continue to, be able to disregard things like that would happen? And, I imagine maybe not to that extent, but that would happen throughout your life as you were growing up, so that you would continue to express this love and care for people, regardless of, how people might treat us.
Well, that lesson taught me to be proud of who I am and my culture, and that the color of my skin, I should be allowed in anywhere. And so it really made me realize how proud I am and was growing up of my Mexican American culture. Yeah. And then hard on my parents, but they also taught me how to kind of deal with the situation. You don't give any power or strength or acknowledge that. You kind of stay away because you don't need that negativity.
Yeah.
But as I was getting older, I learned to have a voice and to speak up. So if someone were to say something to me, or if I found it to be inappropriate, or they perhaps thought it was funny, then I learned to speak up and voice my opinion and say something. Even to this day, I still encounter some of those issues where I feel that maybe in a situation someone hasn't been quite as sensitive, or maybe they just don't understand culturally some things.
Yeah.
So, but I did learn to speak up and say something so that people will know it's not okay, and this is why it's not okay. And sometimes people will appreciate that. And then you have to, you have to also be careful where you're at too, because I know for when earlier this year, for the first All Kings Day, when we went to the march in MABA and other bar associations came together, which was just beautiful. My dad knew that I was gung-ho, I was going and all of that. And he was texting me and calling me, and he said, just make sure, because he didn't know who, like, if ICE or someone's going to be around. He's like, just make sure not to mouth off or say anything that's going to get you in trouble.
Like, don't invite it.
Exactly. I'm like, I know, Dad. So even to this day, he's,
Well, see, I love that too, because it's one of those where it's like, look, you believe and you have a strong belief, and so you are going to engage in that as well, right? From whether it's political, whether it's your voice,
right.
But at the same time, with the understanding that, like, I love your dad's point, right? It's like, hey, don't invite this other aspect of what could happen as well, right?
Go in March and chant whatever you're going to do, but don't, don't.
It's so funny. Parents will always be parents, won't they?
Exactly.
Never changes.
I know.
That's awesome. All right. So, I wanted to ask, when you're going to college, had you always wanted to go to college? Did you know what you wanted to do? Did you want to be an attorney? Kind of what was your mindset as you were going from high school to college?
Going to college, my parents were big on that. They wanted, they felt strongly about education. My dad always regretted not continuing on his education. Both of my parents graduated from high school, and they started to go to community college, but barely went. And then they started working, and then eventually had a family. So my parents were both big supporters and big advocates for education. I enjoyed school, and I, growing up, was a good student. And so I knew that it's something I wanted to do. We just had to figure out financially if that's something I could do. But it was always something that I wanted to do. UCLA was a dream school for me. I never thought that was something I would be able to do, but getting more confidence and starting to believe, then I looked into it more, and eventually, was able to go there, which was a huge deal, a life changer for me. And, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had some friends in high school who knew they wanted a certain profession. I had no idea. Even in college, and the friends I made, they knew they wanted to be, whether it's a doctor, or a dentist, or a teacher. I had no clue. One of my friends will joke around to this day. I would be the one going to the career center, taking exams, trying to figure out, because I didn't know. I didn't know anything about the law. I didn't know about attorneys. I had not met attorneys. And honestly, I didn't think it was something that was even possible for me. I didn't know it was an option.
Yeah, and even an option, right? Yeah.
Right. And then at UCLA, then there's a lot of opportunities there. So, and also in my group of friends, when they were talking about law school, I started looking into it thinking, oh, this is interesting. And there was an internship program. Well, not an internship. It was a mentorship program that UCLA had, because they didn't have pre-law at UCLA. So there was a mentorship program. So I decided to sign up for it. And I was partnered up with a male attorney who, looking back, I don't remember how old he was, but he seemed a lot older to me, maybe in his 50s or 60s. But I have no idea why these gentlemen even signed up to be a mentor. He hated
Oh no.
being a lawyer. He told me this,
Oh, that's the worst.
and he's like, "Why do you want to be a lawyer?" And I said, "Well, I want to help people."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, go into teaching, go into something else." And he goes, and he was just so negative,
Yeah.
and I just kind of shot down what I thought would be great about being an attorney. And then I thought about it, and I said, I can't let this man determine what I want to do. So then this opportunity came up where I applied for an internship program, and then I learned about MALDEF, the Mexican American Legal and Educational Defense Fund.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about it. I got the internship, and I still had to work because I was working through college, and I started working in high school, but I had to still work. So during the summertime, it was a summer internship that I commuted from my parents' house in Orange County to downtown LA to the MALDEF office on Spring Street.
Wow.
And there were some students, from Harvard undergrad, from Stanford. I was from UCLA, but they had full-time, they were working there full-time. They had a stipend. I didn't have a stipend or anything. So I alternated days. But it was an incredible experience because the first time that I met and saw attorneys in action who looked like me. And the president, or the CEO at the time, the general counsel and president, was Antonia Hernandez, who is an incredible woman. And it's a small world because once I became a member of the MABA board, her daughter eventually was president, and she was president before I was president, and we became friends, and we're still friends. And her daughter's a judge now, but it's kind of come around full circle. Yeah. And so that experience really instilled in me that, okay, this is something that I can do then too. And that's how it kind of started.
I love that. All of that. There's so much there. The commute that you had to, commit to. How long was that? I mean, were you doing the bus, or you were taking a car?
I was able to take a car that my parents let me use, and it was for my older brother. But my older brother at the time wasn't driving, so I was using his car, and it would take anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then I wasn't getting paid for the internship.
Yeah.
But so I went, and then I would come home, and then I would have my summer job.
That's. I did the same thing when I was going to UCLA. I was also commuting from home, so we were out here in Fontana, and so I always, whenever anybody talks to me about a long commute, I'm like, I know what that is like,
Yes.
and it's rough, but
Yeah.
but it's something that you wanted to do, and as we're talking this out, the more we learn about you and your story, I'm like, this is somebody who, like, when she puts her mind to something. It doesn't matter if there's a mentor who, like, is a horrible mentor and says the worst things ever, or there's this 2-hour commute every single way, or she has to work while she's going to school. It's like, you are going to do what you set your mind to, regardless of what happens around you. That seems to be the story of your life.
If I feel strongly about something and passionate about something, then yes, I'm
Yeah.
going to pursue it. And even if it's something that maybe even in our own family, if family members don't understand, because this was all a new experience. There's no attorneys in my family at the time. I'm the only one still. I do have a cousin that just finished law school, and he's waiting for his bar results. So hopefully there'll be a second. But it's been a long, I didn't have anyone I could go to in my family to ask questions about. I was completely clueless to all of this. But it's something I wanted to explore. And I even remember, even in college, going, because I was fortunate enough that I was able to live on campus, and I worked. And then in the summer times, though, I was required to go home to my parents' house and get a job and work and have a summer job. I always had to work, so that was, a given. But I remember that I needed to study for final exams, and it was around the Thanksgiving holidays. So normally, one of my chores would be to help out when it comes to the food and cleaning and all that. But I needed to study. And so sometimes, my grandma would be there and she's like, oh, mija, you work too hard, take a break. I'm like, I would, grandma, but I have, I have this exam. Or my mom would need me to help her in the kitchen, but I'm thinking, I can't, I really have to study for this. So sometimes it's also, discussing it with family, or in a way educating them to a new experience that, there's these responsibilities that I have to do this for a reason. One of my cousins was moving away. He took a job in New York. So during that time frame, there was a big family party. I couldn't go because I didn't feel like I was prepared enough for my finals, and I had to take that time to study. And my family was, what do you mean you're not going? You have to go. And I go, you don't understand. This is a hard class. I really have to do well. So there's certain things that you deal with, but my family knows me well enough that, if you're passionate about something, and they want me to be passionate about something, but that you're going to pursue it no matter what. No matter what it takes, even if you can't go to a family function, or you can't help out doing, some chores, or they think you're working too hard, but it's like, I have to put in the time. I need to do this.
Yeah. No, I like the way that you said it too. It's almost like we're educating even your own family with this, right? Because it's a matter of first impression for them too.
Yes, right? Exactly. Yeah. We're going through it the same time. So it was new to them as well.
Yeah. What did, speaking about your experience at MALDEF, that seems to have been very pivotal in your life, and looking at the legal world as, hey, that's a career I want to do. I want to be an attorney. What was it about that experience that made you, or what did it teach you about advocacy and the work that lawyers do?
That it matters, that having a voice to help people that have suffered through horrific situations or are dealing with horrific situations, no matter what type of case it is. There was, they were doing a lot of public interest law and handling different types of cases, but it was exposure that showed me that you can make a difference and it matters, and to stand up and fight the good fight is important. And especially for different communities, that really makes a difference as well. And it's needed because unfortunately, people are going through very difficult times.
Yeah. And it sounds very similar to obviously the work that you do as a plaintiff attorney, right? And I think you, if I remember correctly, you started off at Green Broilette. Is that where you out of law school or one of your early jobs?
I started off at Green Broilette as a law clerk while I was in law school.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So Green Broilette to this day, it's like family to me. I had no idea about this law firm. And I remember as a first-year law student, it's just something you do. You go through the interview process to see if you can get a summer position after your first year. You just want to get
a job anywhere, right?
Yes. And so I applied. Yeah. I did have some experience working at a law office because I took a break between college and law school because I knew I'd have to take out law school loans, and I was terrified about how much money I would owe. So I wanted to make sure, let me see what it's like. Let me, see what the practice of law is like, because I had no clue. So I was able to help out at a law firm for a couple of years, and then I knew that, okay, this is definitely what I want to do. And so since I did have that experience, it helped because when I interviewed, most of the students in my class didn't have any experience. So I ended up getting hired. I do have friends who ended up at some large firms making very good money as, after their first year of law school as clerks. And I, again, didn't know anything about this firm. Going into law school, I thought I wanted to be a prosecutor because I always wanted to be in court. I wanted to be advocating. I wanted to be in trials. And those were the TV programs. In the 80s, because I am older, there was LA Law. And so when I saw that, I thought, okay, I want to then be a prosecutor. I want to get into court all the time. So that's what my mentality was. But when I started taking a class that I'd never even heard of, never heard the word torts, I loved my professor. I loved the class. And it just so happened that I ended up getting hired as a law clerk at Green Broilette back then it was Green, Barlett, Taylor, and Wheeler, and then it became Green, Barlett, Taylor, Wheeler, and Panish, and it's changed obviously since then. So yeah, I was a law student, and so I worked there in the summer. I loved it because these were, like, they still are some of the best attorneys, not only in California, but I'd even say the nation, like with Brown Green, Bruce Broylette, you have Jeff Wells, Chris Bagnoli, you name it, right?
Right.
And Mark Quigley. So I got great experience. And back then, what they had was a big group, a big pool of law clerks. We were all law students, okay? And so I decided to go back again my second year summer, and then my third year of law school, even though I was a full-time day student, I worked at Green Broylette about, on average, 30 to 32 hours, I would say, a week. But absolutely loved it. But we knew back then, and they made it known from the get-go, that back then they were not hiring lawyers. They had enough. But we're going to have law clerks. You're going to get great experience, and we will help you find positions. And we all loved it. And to this day, I'm still close with not only the attorneys that were there at the time, even the attorneys who have joined since, because eventually down the road they had started hiring attorneys after I had, moved on. And staff, the same thing, and other law clerks. We're still, big group of us, still very close and still talk to each other or hang out and see each other. So that's what really changed for me. And then I was not only introduced to the catastrophic injury cases and just saw a completely different world and saw how passionate they were and the way they looked at cases and how they really made a difference in helping people. And I was hooked, and I never looked at the criminal law side again. And I've been on the plaintiff side ever since.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's such an awesome story. And also, by the way, I feel like with every single aspect of your story as well, I'm like, that is my story as well. Whether it's UCLA or I wanted to be a prosecutor, same thing. And then I started working in a plaintiff's firm. You're like, hey, this is amazing. I want to do this, right? And all right, so what was it like as you started working at these, because you've been at many elite firms, as you started working in these spaces as a Latina lawyer starting off? Yeah, how was that experience? And then also going back to making your voice heard and, stepping into larger cases, taking lead in cases, trying cases. I think we have a lot of also Latina lawyer listeners as well, and young attorneys that are kind of trying to pave their way within their firms. And I think it helps so much to hear the story of people who've done it and have done it successfully. Any advice for them, and through your own story and experience?
Yeah. Well, working as a new lawyer, that's for anybody, that's a challenge because, and then you're working on these huge cases and in litigation, as we know, there's a lot of deadlines. This is definitely not a 9-to-5 job, and you can't be approaching it that way. So it's really, figuring things out, learning about the cases so that I would know them well, and making a contribution to the cases, because having a voice and giving opinions on decisions or trying to think outside the box, or why don't we approach, this issue that way, and then building, being a part of that team. So you're included on some of these cases. That's what I would do. I would try to get myself grounded as a new attorney, and then knowing the responsibility I had as working as a team member on some of these big cases, I wanted to make sure that I was going to be doing a thorough job and a good job. So I put in, hard work in doing that and learning new concepts. Some were new concepts for me. So learning and growing and asking, and that's where, organizations like CALA came into place to help with that, because there's things that you're not going to know. And you're not expected to necessarily know, but it could be overwhelming. But it's just finding that confidence so that you know that what your strengths are and to build upon those.
Yeah, I love that. And, I really like the way that you described that, because I think as a young attorney in any firm, certainly was my experience as well, is that, look, at the end of the day, the partners, the handling attorneys, they want people who are going to help them in their cases, right? So the more that you know the file, the higher chance or opportunity you give yourself to be brought onto the team, right? When somebody asks, or the handling attorney asks a question, and you know what the answer is, and nobody else does.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden you start becoming the person that they start asking, right? And now you're at the meetings. Now they want you there because they're like, he knows the file, she knows the file.
Right.
Right. And I think that's such invaluable advice, because that required, I remember I still started when, it's not that long ago, but we had the folders, we had paper,
Yeah.
the red wells. And
blue backs when you file something.
Oh, goodness, yeah. I remember, when there was like a new case, I would go downstairs, because that's where everything was. I'd grab the red wells, whatever, I have, 5, 6, 7 red wells, and I'd bring them back to my desk. And I'd read through every single piece of paper that was there, every correspondence, every handwritten note by the partner, whoever it was. I was like, I'm going to know everything that's here.
Right.
And I think at the end of the day, that's the number one advice, right, for young attorneys.
Yeah, very important to really know the case and then to learn the concept. So a lot of it when it comes to medicine, things can be very complicated. We're not medical doctors. We're not expected to be medical doctors, but you still have to know about it. So it's looking things up, learning about procedures. How are they done? Why are they done? And because you're going to have to question whether, depending on the case, but a lot of times with doctors, and you need to know how things work. And so I would go out and study that, or I would get medical, books, something to help me so I can understand the concept, or find out what's the best book to learn this type of procedure. Because back then, it wasn't so much the internet, it was, books.
Right. You have to
And
find it.
just getting and then talking to people who I knew who have similar cases or had similar cases, and asking them, even like someone, Bruce Broilette, you might not think since he's such an incredible attorney, he wouldn't be approachable. He's the most approachable person. So even after I left Green Broilette and I was working elsewhere, I could go to him or any of the attorneys and say, how do you break down such a complicated matter and simplify it? Or how do you go about learning about this complicated procedure? And so I would, be a sponge. I wanted to learn as much as I could, and I would try and figure out how could I get these answers, or what should I do, or what do you do? What do you recommend I do? So that's what I would just go around asking people that I felt they were going to be receptive.
Yeah, I love that. It's part of being resourceful, and I think that's such a important quality for anyone to have as they're coming onto a firm or law office or whatever. But just being resourceful. We're not going to know everything, and I think finding a way to find out is part of the job as well.
Exactly.
And this is kind of going to double as, I think, a plug for CALA, right? But you mentioned just how, that's why organizations like CALA are helpful, because there are things that we don't know, whether it's the listserv, whether it's the various CLEs. And can you talk to, again, many young attorneys here or folks of like, what is the benefit of an organization like CALA where you can learn stuff that you're not going to find anywhere else?
So what I think is invaluable, it's building your tribe, basically. There's a lot of people that you're going to meet, and you're going to realize you can run ideas. As an attorney, especially as a young attorney, you might be intimidated to do that because people might think you don't know that, or you're not that bright, or why would you be working on this case if you're not understanding this concept? So sometimes you might be intimidated and not want to approach somebody or ask questions because you don't want to come across as not being very bright. But at the same time,
that's the number one fear, by the way, of like so many young attorneys.
Yes.
Like, I don't want them to think that I'm dumb.
Right.
Yeah.
But what you learn is you meet people and you talk to them and you realize they may feel the same way. So you start to think that, okay, I can ask this person something and it's without judgment, and vice versa. So the way I even was able to learn about CALA is, again, in law school as a law clerk working at the Green Broilette firm, they were very much involved with CALA and COC. So I saw not only what incredible attorneys, but incredible people they are. And they were in leadership roles. So multiple presidents through that firm were coming up the ranks, were on the board. And I thought they would talk about all these different issues involving CALA. So I wanted to learn. So I knew that when I was going to be getting ready to graduate from law school and then eventually move on, I approached some of them, the partners, and I said, I'm interested in this organization that you're a member of. And they were thrilled. So they took me to meet Chris Bagnoli, took me to board meetings. Jeff Wells introduced me. All of them extremely supportive. That's how I learned about CALA. And then I thought, if these incredible attorneys who are incredible people are so involved and they're on leadership, then I need to find out more about this organization. So that's how I started getting involved. And then I started volunteering to be on the education committee or be involved in certain committees or find out where do you need help. They used to have a silent auction back then during the Cala Vegas convention. So I would volunteer to help out and I would get to know people. And then Cala was putting on programs. I would attend the programs and I would learn. I would meet people there, start friendships, create friendships, build friendships too, and meet other attorneys as well. And so it just started to grow into this community of support where you can learn, where people you can go to get advice, whether it's on cases or just advice in general, And so that's how I became involved. And then I just kept getting more involved as the years went on.
That's so cool. And, I when I started practice, I definitely was not involved at all. Yeah, I was just in the office and worked, and you go, my work is going to speak for itself, and that's all I need, right? But I think you miss out on so many things by not becoming involved, like what you said there, which is like you start building a tribe as well. And you start building a support, not that it's about me and that it's about, people supporting me, but you also become a part of that group for others, right?
100%. And the networking is very important because there's opportunities that you're presented with that you wouldn't think otherwise. But if people get to know you and they see what you're doing or they know about cases you're working on, and that networking is invaluable as well. And it opens so many doors that I just can't. I get excited when I go to different bar events, and I love seeing law students there. I've even seen some high school students or college students, depending on the event. But when I see law school students, I remember in law school, I was, I did have to work, but I also knew that you're studying a lot because it's not always easy, right? And for them to take the time to go to these events, I said, I wish I would have started early. I didn't, but you're doing the right thing because that is just going to open opportunities that otherwise may not have been presented to you.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely. I think so. It's become so important for me as well. And like you said, for networking, for meeting people, for being part of the tribe as well, right? I think it's so important for an attorney's career and development as well.
100%, because I strongly believe I can learn and we can learn from anybody. It doesn't matter if you have someone who's been practicing longer than we have or they're brand new attorneys. It's the practice of law. And it's what's interesting to me is how people look at maybe the same situation, the same issue. And I like to observe that, or I like to explore that some more. So even if it's a young attorney, I'm very open to it because I want to know. And we can talk and, talk about certain issues. So it's growing. We're constantly growing. And I'm always going to look at it that way because, as I mentioned, it's the practice of law. So I always want to continue to grow, learn. And there's different techniques that people have. We're storytellers. I love telling stories, but there's always room for improvement. So I would love to see how does this particular person tell the story versus this person, and how would I tell the story, and then just piecing things together. So that's exciting to me. It's just
so fun. And
it
it's
is.
It's like you're picking up. If it's like a video game, right? You're picking up coins and tokens along the way. It's just like, wow, this is awesome. I didn't know this. Let me apply this to my practice, to my clients, right?
Right.
It's exciting.
And it makes a difference when you see people telling stories. Some you're just captivated by. And that matters, especially when you're litigating a case. And our clients come to us because something horrific happened to them, So having the privilege of telling their story, the better we can do it, the better we're going to be able to serve our clients, which is important, get justice for them.
100%. And you know, when you started, you're in leadership now and have been for many years. You've been president of the Mexican American Bar Association. You're taking on the mantle now for CALA in 2026. I mean, this is the top of the top, right, that you've done and you're doing. Is this at all anything that you envisioned when you started volunteering?
No, I never started volunteering with the goal in mind that I would be president. And honestly, and my first, because for CALA, what happens is after 10 years, then you move to a different position on the board, emeritus, right?
Okay.
So even during that 10-year time frame, towards the latter part of the 10 years, I thought, oh, I wonder what it would be like, to serve on the executive committee, but it's nothing that I felt I would be ready for, because in order to have that responsibility, there's so much more that I felt I wanted to learn. I wanted to know all the different aspects about CALA before making that commitment. It's a 9-year commitment, so it's not a short commitment. And so after I became emeritus, what's happened in the past is a lot of people who have served for a decade at least, or more than a decade, you can see some perhaps may not be as involved as they were, within the 10-year time frame. But I was involved during that 10-year time frame, and I continue to be even more involved as an emeritus board member. And then it's just something that I felt strongly about, because I knew what CALA helped me with as an attorney and helps me with, and also, the friends that I've made through CALA. But I also think it's very important to help others who are coming up through in the legal profession. And I wanted to be able to do that as well. And so there were certain issues or topics perhaps that would come up in meetings. And I think it makes a difference also, we all have different perspectives, and part of that could be because of our cultures, but I might look at something differently than, say, somebody else. But I realized that that voice is important and it mattered, and I felt that I could help make a difference there, and also help others who are coming up too.
Yeah, I think that's so important and necessary, and I think many, to your immense credit, Elizabeth, is that I think sometimes many people can see the need for that, but don't step into it. And they're like, yeah, we need that, but like, I won't do that because of the time commitment, because of the work, because of all that, right? And you are one of the very rare few who, yes, I have a practice. Yes, I'm doing all of this, but I'm going to step into this as well because this is necessary and needed.
And I think for me, it would have been nice, looking back, like I said, I had no clue about, and I didn't know about what I wanted to do until I was a junior in college at UCLA. It would have been nice to have that exposure much younger, or to have opportunities. And then even in the legal profession, like I said, in my family, I might be struggling with learning difficult concepts, but I couldn't really go and talk to someone in the family who was an attorney who's gone through it. So I just wanted to build more support, I guess. And it would have been nice if I would have known that much earlier or been exposed to that much earlier. So I don't want others to have to go through that. I want to open those opportunities up for other people to make at least the pathway a little bit easier.
And you have done that, and you continue to do that. So thank you for that. What have you had to, you said you weren't even thinking about leadership. What have you had to develop or change anything about your own leadership style to step into these leadership positions? Or maybe, I don't know if it's belief in ourselves. I don't know what it is, right? But like, as you went through this journey and now president, what do you think you've had to develop in yourself to step into leadership confidently?
Well, definitely the belief and the confidence, because I've been involved in CALA for so long on the executive committee, I'm the only one who's been on the board the longest. So, but I think that's beneficial because there's a lot that's happened in the early 2000s, the mid 2000s, and something comes up. I remember that, and I think that adds to the conversation.
Institutional knowledge.
Yeah, I think that's very important. But it's definitely building the confidence. That's why I know some folks on leadership, maybe after being on the board for, say, 6 years, they'll run for the executive committee to be president. I just realized what a great not that they didn't, but for me personally, realized what a great responsibility would be to have that 9-year commitment. Is this something that I really want to do or can do? And so I took my time before I made the decision that, yes, I can do it. So I just built my confidence up the more I was involved on leadership roles and committees. And that's what I realized, that no, I have a voice that matters, and this is something that I can do and that I want to do. So that's what happened for me.
No, thank you for sharing that. And what do you think are the leadership qualities that when you think of a good leader, like what do you think makes up those leadership qualities? There could be many things, but the things that stand out to you.
Some that stand out are building the connection. So in order to build the connection, what I've really learned that helps is truly listening to people. I don't have to be the loudest voice in the room who's constantly speaking up. It takes me back to law school. In our section, one of our friends, he was every single day. He was always the one in class. He was always raising his hand and talking. But what I realized, and then some of the quietest people had the most amazing thoughts or statements, or the way they looked at something, but
and the
they
highest
weren't
grades.
but they weren't the ones always raising their hands. And so so that's what it takes me back to is I don't have to. I like to listen and observe a lot. I think that helps me in terms of leadership, because I want to get a better understanding of where people are coming from or why they're advocating a certain way. And if I have questions, then I'll go to them and I'll ask, because I want to learn more to see where they're coming from, because there's different perspectives. I don't believe in, it's my way or the highway. In terms of leadership, there's a big group of us, and it's not me leading alone. There's a whole executive committee, there's a whole board, there's past presidents, and you have a lot of different personalities. And as attorneys, especially litigators and trial attorneys, we also have egos to a certain extent,
Sure.
So it's trying to balance it out, but trying to figure people out. And part of that, for me at least, is really listening to people and communicating with them and talking. So that way we build that connection, and I understand where someone may be coming from and why they want to do something a certain way. And then we can talk civilly and rationally about it. And then the other thing is to be patient. There's things that have been heated or something that happens, and I may want to instantly say something, but I've learned to take a deep breath, to think about it a little bit more, and then perhaps my approach might be a little bit different. So it's patience and listening to people to build the connections.
I love that. And I love the way that you, because sometimes people will say listening, right? It's really important to listen. And you did talk about that, but you couched it under the category of connecting. And I like that, because when I think about then listening as not necessarily being a topic itself, but part of connecting with people, because that's the end goal. The end goal is to be able to connect with folks. It's not just I'm going to listen for the sake of listening because I have to be patient or I have to whatever, right? It's no, it's because I'm trying to connect with people. I hadn't thought about it like that. So thank you. Yeah.
And then in terms of in our mind, we always have a lot going on, right? So when we're talking to somebody, it's very easy to be looking at somebody and thinking, okay, I have to do this, I have to do that. It's no, this person deserves my full attention. So let me do what I can to give it. And let me really listen to what this person is saying, not just thinking, okay, I have so much to do. No. So it's not always easy, but that's what I really try to work hard on.
Yeah.
Because I would like the same back. If I'm talking to somebody, I want to know that, it matters.
Right. And often it's they're not really listening, not trying to connect because they're just trying to come up with their own response. Really, it's like, what am I going to tell them? Or
Exactly.
oh, that happens a lot. But thank you. I hadn't thought about listening in terms of just being geared toward connecting, and the connecting is really the thing that we're looking for, and I really like that.
And it goes with what we do too,
Yeah.
especially when it goes to, connecting with the client,
100%. With the jury.
Especially, because we might have our little outline of what we want to get to, but we really want the jury to open up. How are they going to open up? We really need to listen to what they're saying instead of, okay, moving on to the next. It's like, oh no, let's explore this a little more. Maybe you're deviating from your outline in your mind that you have, but you're going to get more out of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and even the listening there, it's like, because, I mean, obviously they're not talking, but you're taking cues, right? Physical cues, or where their eyes are going, or are they paying attention?
Right.
Or do I need to actually discuss this topic a little bit more? Or like,
Right.
they don't need to hear about this anymore. So, but it really is, again, connection. It's listening is a component of it, but it's really about connecting.
Yes.
I like that.
That's important. So it's important in leadership to me. That's what I feel. It's important with what we do with our clients, important with the jury, important with other attorneys, even opposing counsel. I know with civility, it's important, and sometimes it's hard to be civil, but that's important too, is building those connections and connecting with people.
Yeah. And we're coming close to the end of our time here. I did want to leave off just with a couple of questions.
Okay.
And I think mentorship is something that's, as representation has been for you, and being a voice for people. But I think mentorship is also a component of who you are, a big component of who you are. What's one piece of advice that you would give to younger attorneys that you mentor?
That I mentor. Oh, well, it's to be themselves, and to find your way, to figure out what their strengths are, and not to be afraid to get out of their comfort zone. It's very easy just to kind of be in our own comfort zone and not to want to take some chances or risks, but kind of thinking outside the box and getting outside of that comfort zone, I think is going to help. And taking the time to get involved in organizations is going to help with that.
And how do you see mentorship as part of your legacy? I think it is a big component of it.
Mentorship is very important to me. And, especially with Cala and the presidency coming up, for me, I'm a strong believer in to build the pipeline. I know there's a big focus on law students. To me, yes, law students are very important, but we're already too late if we just focus on law students. We need to start earlier, and that's why I would have liked to have that in elementary school. But even starting then is not too young, because I know from one of my friends who's a teacher, she teaches 5th and 6th graders. By the time the kids are in junior high, they're already in their mind, and their families are, okay, you're not going to go to college, or it's not an option for you, or high school, you might not even finish. And the dropout rate, according to my friend, by sophomore year in high school is very high, especially in certain communities. So to me, mentorship is important. So it's options. Does it mean you have to be a lawyer? No, it could be somewhere in the legal profession. If you want to be a paralegal, if you want to be a court reporter, but building that pathway and starting early is important. So I'd like to hit all different levels. In addition to law school. So mentorship is key, and taking the time to really help out. You're not going to have all the time in the world, but there's things that you can do. And just some of those things can make the world a difference to somebody, where you're going to instill in their mind that this is something they can do. Like, for example, last year at MABA, when I was president, I wanted to make it a point we had to have a mock trial where we had the kids do it, not us going in. So we did one with the 5th and 6th grade class in Linwood, primarily Latino students, community. And the teacher was amazed. So there were a couple of us who presented like what attorneys do. But we had a fact pattern, and she taught it to the students. And she said the ones that were the quietest students in the class normally were the first ones to raise their hands to play the role of attorneys. So we went and we had them put on the mock trial, and it was incredible because one of the fifth graders, he was so quiet. And what we decided to do is like, well, this is what a cross-examination is. We just want you to know. And then we said, would anyone be interested in trying it? And he raised his hand. And then he got up and he tried to do a cross-examination. My friend, who is a teacher, was almost in tears because she couldn't believe it. And then we received handwritten notes from one of the students, a little girl, who thanked us for going and said, I never knew that this is something I could do. I loved this, and now I want to be a lawyer. So I'm gonna do whatever I need to do, but I want to go to law school, and that meant the world, just to make a little bit of an impact, or maybe a huge impact. Who knows? But you made the impact, and that's what's important.
Yeah, that's a powerful story. It makes me, I felt like I was getting a little emotional because it's how something that could seem like any other day for us, even like, hey, this is what I do. I'm just teaching, it's like they're kids, but like, no, it's not. Actually, it's impactful.
Right.
And students, kids, those children remember that and I love it because, you ask any kid, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Most kids, it's like, I want to go to the NBA or, baseball or whatever, because that's also what they see.
Exactly.
Right. So they see that and they want to do that. But if they're exposed to, like you said, it's not like we were exposed to attorneys growing up. And so other than like, okay, we can have we can have a better life if I follow some sort of profession, but you didn't really see what it is.
Right.
But if you can see that and you can visualize it, and then it becomes impactful. And I think what I love is it also touches teachers and educators as well, right? Because then they see like, wow, look at this student. And we didn't know that this student had this calling or an aptitude for that either.
Right. And so it's never too early to start. And I know, again, I think it's important to build those relationships when they're young, just to create opportunities, options. If they decide to go into something else, that's great, whatever they're passionate about. But I mean, again, it would have been nice if we were exposed to that growing up.
And now you are creating those pathways for others that you wish had been there for you.
Trying.
Yeah.
And I'm taking steps to get that done.
And thank you so much for doing that, Elizabeth. I can tell you, like, on behalf of my sister and myself, we've known you for a few years now, and you've just been absolutely wonderful. And thank you for opening doors for us as well, because you have.
That's very nice
and
of you.
It's very touching to see because, people don't have to, you don't owe us anything. And we've talked to my sister of like, wow, like this is cool. She's inviting us to this. Like wow, thank you, Elizabeth. Right. And I would imagine so many people have a very similar feeling experience. Like, wow, I can't believe that she noticed us over here. Right. But thank you.
No,
but thank you so much.
That's very sweet.
Because you've been such a wonderful inspiration for so many people, and you continue to do that. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for both of you for doing this. And I have nothing but great respect for both of you and what you are accomplishing too, and your leadership roles as well.
Yeah.
You have a big leadership role as president coming up too. So yes, very proud.
And we'll find a way to do something together with the LANIE.
We
right?
absolutely are, 100%.
Absolutely. Okay.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for this time. And, to all of our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. This was an amazing time with Elizabeth, and we just ask, go ahead and share that, whether you're on YouTube, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and we are very much looking forward to the next episode, and we'll see you then. Take care.